This podcast is sponsored by Utocop. For more details, please click on the link that is in the description below. So, welcome to episode number 12 of On a Personal Note with Adarsh Sakare. Episode 11 was great. We had Syed in the studio. Syed's story was as raw as possible. I think one of the best things about him was that he was nervous, but he didn't hold back with anything. He was just speaking his heart out. And if you haven't yet watched that, you should definitely check it out. Another update, we are live now on Spotify. So if you haven't yet checked that out, please feel free to do so when you're driving, right? So that's one thing I wanted to say before we start. Today we have another special guest in the studio, someone I've been very curious about for a lot of reasons. But before we start, let's say hi to Shruti Mathew.
Good evening, Adarsh. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to give me a chance to speak about my story, my journey, and why I do what I do.
Perfect. So I think that's a good phrase that you just start off with. Why you do what you do. So first, let's explain to them, right? Why is Shruti in the studio today? So to give you a backstory, I think it was about 6 months ago that I came across your profile, and Shruti is the founder of a company called the Yoga Tribe, right? So it's not Yoga Tribe, it's the Yoga Tribe, like Shruti has mentioned it to me. So I saw her work, and I kind of immediately got the vibe that she is very sure of what she is doing, and there is a pure connection between her and the Yoga Tribe. And there's a very nice vibe. Like, we'll put up the Instagram handle here, go and check it out. And I already knew that, I wanted to speak about it. Now, I am a yoga amateur, like, no idea, right? But I knew that she would be the right person. We haven't had anyone else here before who'd speak about this. So, yeah, so sit back. If you are into yoga, awesome. If you aren't, well, this is a chance to get to know more about it and also about Shruti as well. So, that being said, let's start off with this discussion, Shruti. Uh, I think I want to ask a very basic question right at the start. What is the difference between a person who doesn't practice yoga and between the person who practices yoga, according to you?
Okay, so in my perspective, yoga, as we all know, is a physical, to be known as obvious, is a
Yeah.
physical
Yeah.
routine, or you do meditation, it's a stress relief, stress buster, all of that. But the difference, if you look at a person, and like when I look at people or I look at my client, I can tell whether there's a background of
Okay.
yoga vibe in them or not.
Or not.
And I think the most important part would be when you look at them as a personality and a character, you'll either see them more calm and mindful, and that's the word I would like to use, because yoga actually makes you aware, and it actually pushes you to be in the very moment. And we all talk about being in the present moment, but are we really in the present moment? And with practice, that's, whether it's Surya Namaskara, whether it's asana, whether it's breathing, it brings you to that moment of actually being present with yourself. And I would like to say that yoga is not outward, but inward.
Inward.
So when you see a person practicing yoga, you'll realize there's a lot of resonation of the self and understanding of who they are, versus a person who's never done yoga.
Okay.
And you can also tell a person who's done yoga as in just a physical practice to a person who's actually sat and meditated and been mindful of what they're doing.
Okay. That brings me to the immediate second question. We'll get into the journey, right? Why I'm asking you this is because it's important to understand these basic questions as well. And it's my own curiosity as well, right? So, are you saying, in general, if I had to ask you, and if you don't need to answer, you don't have to, but are you saying that a person who leads a life without yoga uh, is actually not leading a quality of life while compared to a person who has practiced yoga? Can
So
you
that
give me a conclusion on that?
that's
Yeah.
a very interesting question, because the word yoga in itself,
Mm.
as we all know, is a practice. But I'd like to bring that to a notice that yoga is a lifestyle.
Okay.
And if you look at the word yoga, it comes from a Sanskrit word which is yuj,
Yuj.
Y-U-J.
Okay. And yuj is?
And yuj means union.
Okay.
So, union with yourself, body, mind, heart, and soul.
Which means you're saying that is a better life.
Yes. So it doesn't, as long as you are sure of who you are, what you're doing, and your actions, that is yoga. You don't necessarily
Okay. I like
have to
this more.
be, sitting in Chin Mudra, sitting in a mountain.
Yeah.
Because you can be there physically. But the mind, like they say, chitta vritti nirodha, is to get that mind that's always chattering, just not to have any thought.
So can I then say, okay, so there's basically something, there's a way of being that you can achieve through yoga. But is yoga a tool then?
Yes.
So there are other tools to be the way that yoga, helps you be, right? So yoga is not the only tool.
It's not the only tool. For example, me being a sports person or a dancer,
Yeah, this is what I want to clarify. Yeah.
right? And the journey, I always did yoga as a physical practice, as a warm up, to stretch, to release, to get flexibility, because as a dancer, form is very important. And if you don't have form, you really don't consider yourself as a good artist or a performer. And in that perspective, dance itself is union. Right? Or being a sports person, when you're on the field, or you're in, preparing your mind for a tournament, or in just your daily practice, there's so much of you 100%.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be yoga. So the definition of yoga today, as we know it,
Okay.
is Surya Namaskara or meditation or just breathing. But that lifestyle can come from various things
Yeah.
based on very personal journeys.
Yeah, perfect. So there's one thing that I've started to, speak about in my circle of friends. I say the more aware we become of who we really are, the better aligned we are towards a good quality of life. In a way, does that resonate with the definition of yoga?
Yes, because it gives you the reasoning or the opportunity to be a better version of yourself.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. I think I love that start to the episode about yoga. Now, let's dive into Shruti's journey, of course, because, for her to say that I'm going to start something called the Yoga Tribe, and I'm going to make this movement so that I make this message of yoga reach people. I think that's really awesome. So, let's hear it. Like, why the Yoga Tribe?
So the name came about very randomly, and 5 minutes into the random name, a lot just fell into place.
Okay.
So, like you said earlier, the Yoga Tribe
Yeah.
is giving a solid definition or purpose of why the name. And the word yoga, like I said, is union. And we are all in this together.
Yeah.
You can't. So even if you're taking the path alone and you're writing your destiny alone, you come across situations, you come across people, and they play a vital role in that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I started off with my journey also, it came about from an injury where people had written me off saying, you're so young, and if you don't do surgery, you're not going to be able to walk. And that for me was like, how can you tell me I can't do something? So it was painful, of course, but I think, when you know you can, and there's a voice, your inner child telling you, or what we say, my gut feeling.
Okay.
Right? The intuition was that if I'm going to believe that, it'll become my truth.
What age did this injury? Don't mind me asking.
No
like-
problem. So this
yeah.
was exactly 8 years back. So
Okay.
when I was 23, 24.
23, 24.
Yeah.
And that's when it happened. Okay.
Yeah. So, and when it happens with no caution,
Yeah.
you are just stuck. You
Yeah.
literally feel like, oh my God, why? Right?
So
But-
what happened? What was the injury? Like,
So I was rehearsing and I slipped on my sweat and fell. And with all the extracurricular activities during my childhood, athletics, sports, dance, me being the hyper person that I am, can't sit in one place. I think I'd done too much to my body, and at that point, when I slipped and fell, my body was like, "This is it.
This is
This
it.
is this is
Now
all
I
I
now
can
I
take."
can't take it.
So, but it also, at the main realization was you can never take anything for granted. The moment you do that, whether it's your body, whether it's your mind, whatever, like people around you, you will have to pay the price. So I paid the price, but at the same time, I found for purpose in why the yoga tribe exists today.
Okay.
So I took an alternative option of therapy and the road less traveled. Which was possible because of the support system and the positivity that my parents and my household gave me. But they also told me, if you are going
But the
to...
support was to heal you from that.
Yes.
Not really towards the yoga tribe as such, because that's not yet in. This
No.
is to heal you and help you get you back on your feet.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So in the process, there was a lot of, videos you watch, the inspiration, the motivation. And I happened to come across one of Nick Boych's video.
Yes.
And I think it just hit me like there was no turning back. And I said, if a man with no limbs can do everything that he loves to do, who am I to look at just my knees which are not okay, or my patellas that are out of position? I at least have both my limbs and my legs. So I would like to say the thing was, though I was a person who was always positive and always fight for what you want, at that point I was made to question my own strength. And, where you had everything, but you had nothing.
You had nothing.
And I think when you reach rock bottom is the only time you make the choice to either give up or go all the way up and shine through.
Yeah.
So that took a year. And
so you got a lot of time with yourself as well, right?
Yes.
Like there's nothing to do. There's not much you can do.
Yeah, because I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
I absolutely couldn't do anything but just take care of myself. And the taking care, a lot of times when people say self-care or self-love, it's also to rest.
Yeah.
And to slow down.
Yeah. In fact, for me, like when the first and the second wave happened during the pandemic, and my work kind of got hit, right? And I tell this to people a lot, like when they say they don't have anything to do, it's a good thing. Like how often
Do we have so much time?
Yeah, how often do you have so much time? And how often are you really jobless? Like that's your break.
Yeah.
That's where you sit and again regroup. Okay, what am I doing and how do I go forward, right? That was pretty much your phase then at that point of time.
And so I chose everything that I love to do. So what I took from Nick Boychich is, if this gives my spirit that push, why not? So it started with swimming, which was something that I did, and being a water baby.
So you were a swimmer back in
Yeah,
school.
so I did professional swimming, and in our country, like today at least, we have few names to say that they made it to the Olympics and make it big. But at the point, my mom was like, it's either dance or swimming. And I chose dance, of course. So I did it professionally, and then it was just, of course, passion and love to be in the water and continue the sport. But it was very therapeutic, because when you're in
Lovely.
water, it's not so much the effort. So I would spend a lot of time not doing anything, but just being in the water.
In the water, oh?
And
Beautiful.
then strength conditioning happened with slow asanas, slow breathing. Breath, I would say, is the best tool.
And who's guiding you towards all these thoughts? Is it you? Is it someone else?
So I think it's a lot from the foundation of being a classical dancer.
Okay.
The stories of our scriptures and things like that. My mom was a yoga teacher.
Lovely.
So there's a
Does
lot
she
of...
still teach?
Yes, she does.
Oh, lovely.
So
mother and daughter take...
Yeah, so I think, when you see things around, it becomes a part of you. And I think the positivity, like I mentioned
nice.
earlier, it is the choice you make in your mind. Because once your body is constantly listening to what the mind is directing it to do. So like I said, when the doctor told me, surgery is the way out, you're so young, you won't be able to climb steps. He literally said you won't be able to do anything. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how can someone just, like write you off.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that point, I said, I actually closed the file and I said, Doctor, due respect to your career and all of that, but I'm going to be taking the alternate way out.
Out. What was
So,
his response?
well, he's a family doctor, so he didn't have much
Oh, so it's
choice there. He told my dad, I think she's a bit stressed now. You can go home, take a few days. It's a simple pinhole surgery. And I was actually mad because my dad also was like, no, we'll think about it. And I said, no, like
Yeah.
the pain is too much.
Yeah.
And we always believe in taking a second opinion. So we went to our sports orthopedic and he looked at me and he said, he first seen me through my athletic injuries and he said, are you really going to believe that you need surgery? And I think for me, that was a sense of, hope that,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not the only one believing in
There's
this.
someone else on my side
Yes.
too.
So
That's
he
awesome.
said you need to go through strength conditioning because at this point, your body wants your attention and care. And so physiotherapy, of course, is not such an enjoyable thing.
I'm sure.
So I did it for few months and then I realized the pain was too much.
Okay.
And that's when I said, if you have to really heal and care, you needed to do with love and kindness and not add trauma to your situation.
So then this also then, puts a huge question on what doctors are telling us. At some point, maybe you have to question it because we are so often told that your doctor's opinion is your final opinion. Like, that's your fate.
I think also because of the lack of knowledge on our
Yeah,
own,
yeah.
that we put our trust in the doctor.
In the doc, if you yourself are reading up and finding out more about things, maybe you start exploring, right? Awesome. So now I understand that there was support in terms of strength conditioning and yoga became a part of you, but why does this become your life? Why is the yoga tribe suddenly taking your whole, you're all about this?
So when
I'm sure you've considered other things. Like you can do so many other things. You can do other jobs. You can maybe enter the stock market. You can take a dance class. But why this?
So, when I healed with all of this and I started doing things that I love to do, universe brought me similar stories where people are like, my meniscus this, my back that, and I'm going in for surgery and X, Y, Z, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Would you give me a chance? Because this is my story. And I think when you have a true story and you have that conviction of sharing, it really inspires people.
Okay.
And I think that inspiration was something that was a calling to me. And a lot of people after said, you have a way with words. And you are so easy, like you convinced me so easily. And when I started teaching
And
them
all these
and guiding,
people who you're talking about have faced some injury or something in the past. Major injuries, which you feel you're able to help them get out of.
Yes.
Okay,
so
that's nice.
there were 5 of them that I came across, and
Okay.
5 of them had scheduled surgeries in a span of like 1 week, 10 days, 2 months. So I took the one which is 1 week and I said, you know what, let's do 7 days.
Okay.
If I cannot achieve, I will hand you over to the decision that you've taken, but give me a chance. And at that point, it was not so much the physical exercise or the strength conditioning or rehab,
Okay.
but the mind and the alternate therapies of how the mind can really heal your body. So
Okay.
that's why the yoga tribe is a huge part of who I am today, because I feel like it's mind over matter. The moment you decide this and you consistently do it, your body is listening to that. And those are the vibrations that you're creating at a cellular level. And your body doesn't have a choice but to believe that it's possible to heal and recover. And those were the places where I did have question marks, because I'm like, okay, my body, I kind of understood. But if I'm taking responsibility for another
person,
body,
yeah.
I mean, tomorrow they're going to come back and ask me, you said don't do surgery, but now I'm here.
Yeah.
And that's where I told them, you do the mental techniques that I shared with them. And that pushed me to do my international teachers training in yoga.
That's awesome. Okay, and how long does that usually
So
go on
that's
for?
a month,
Okay.
but it's quite challenging for a
Hmm.
month because if you've not done physical
Hmm.
practice,
Hmm.
it takes a toll because you have theory, you have practical, and it's like you wake up at 5 a.m., you start
Okay.
your session from 6 to 9,
Hmm.
8:30, then you have breakfast, then you again get into theory.
Hmm.
So, and you finish at around 7 in the evening. So
Hmm.
it's back to back.
That's
And
crazy.
because I
Hmm.
had physical practice, that was easy. So I could
Hmm. Hmm.
focus on actually understanding the anatomy of the body, how our muscles work, how our bones work, nervous system, cardiac system. Literally, I felt like a doctor after I
Hmm.
came out
After
of
you
that.
came out of it.
So even today, like when I
Hmm.
went back, so I went to my sports orthopedic and I told him, I said, you know what, if there are
Hmm.
cases like mine,
Hmm.
would you be open to,
Suggesting.
letting me
Yeah.
go there and show
Hmm.
them? I mean, they can do
Yeah.
whatever they need to do, but I feel like if they can add the mind, the
Hmm.
recovery is that much more faster.
So until now, when you used to say that, you helped yourself with the injury and you help people with the injury, my thought process is still very physical, like on the physical side, where you're giving them some exercises or breathing techniques. But when you say the mind, then I'm almost getting a very therapist feel. So, are you also a therapist then in a way?
If you ask me, I have no certification.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, is that the feel? So are you being with them, in terms of what they are feeling?
Yes.
Are you listening to them? And what do you do in that
So in
space
the
there?
first session, I always do a trial, and
Hmm.
sometimes they're like, "No, no, we're ready for it," and I say, "No, we'll do a trial, we'll see,"
Hmm.
because see, for all of us today,
Hmm.
trust is a huge question mark.
Correct. Yeah,
And
it's very
that
tough.
needs
Hmm.
to be the foundation because
Okay.
tomorrow, when you trust me,
Hmm. Hmm.
you also are saying, you know what's best for my highest good,
Hmm.
and I will take it. So
Okay.
that itself is therapy, right? When
Hmm.
when we talk about something and someone is a good year
Hmm.
without judgment.
Okay.
I'd
That
like
is,
to repeat without judgment because we all come from a very vulnerable space when we're going to ask for help. And it takes courage to even take that first step.
yeah.
Most often we're like, and in India, I feel it's such a taboo.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, when you say therapist, like something's
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
Or
that's
you
true.
say counselor, or you say,
Hmm.
I'm depressed or I'm taking medication
Hmm.
or
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
what all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so important because at every, even on a daily basis, we
Hmm.
go through depressive states of mind.
Of mind. Yeah.
And when that continues,
Hmm.
you become depressed when you don't
Okay.
do anything about those patterns, because
Hmm.
end of the day it's all about the pattern. So when I
Really?
say I help them
Hmm.
mentally, we're breaking these patterns
Hmm.
through techniques of positive thinking,
Hmm.
affirmations,
Okay.
writing down,
Nice.
journaling.
Hmm.
There are various
So it's
things.
almost like a step-by-step tutor, right?
It
You
is.
become a step-by-step tutor, not only with the physical but also the mental.
Because I feel the journey of transformation is parallel.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
body
Hmm.
and mind have to
Yeah, have
find
to go
sync.
together. It's so then it's not just waking up and doing a few exercises, but if your mind is not aligned with where are you going to use all this
Yes.
energy,
So
right? Then
that's why
there's
when I said I look
hmm.
at it as a lifestyle transformation.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking yoga class,
Hmm.
I'm there. I am not a spoon feeding sort. Because tomorrow
Hmm.
I don't want you to feel like, okay, you're my crutch, I will
Yeah.
always get
Hold
you.
on. Yeah.
But I show you the path where you can believe in yourself.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
have it
Hmm.
all within you. It's just that you don't trust it
Yeah.
and you don't believe that you can.
Hmm.
The moment you decide you can, you
Hmm.
really can.
Perfect, perfect. So, a few other things in my head, and the first one is this: to practice yoga, I don't see. I feel there has to be some type of diet, right? Like there has to be some type of food that you cannot eat, right? Now, why I'm asking you that is so something like eating non-veg food or even consuming alcohol. Now, I want to know, like, can a person who consumes non-veg food and who has, say, a beer or two in a week, can that person do yoga?
So it's funny that you asked me this question because when I went for my teacher's training, that's my first doubt. So I went in saying, okay, no non-veg, no alcohol. I will be completely cleansed going into this whole journey of, being a teacher, being the inspiration, being the guide to the rest of the few people.
Because the majority feels alcohol helps you be in touch with yourself.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
So I asked my master and I said, you know what, like I'm born and brought up with the meat eating. I mean, being from a half Malayali to a half Kodavati, like it's just food,
Oh,
drinks,
crazy.
make merry, live
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's my lifestyle. So he said, you know what, who told you this? And I said, no, but
I already love this guy.
you can't. I said, but you don't do these things. And he said, see, you're given a body
Okay.
and your body has certain cravings.
Okay.
If you don't satiate it,
If you don't?
if you don't satiate those cravings,
Okay.
you don't give in to those
Okay.
cravings, it's going to be suppression.
Yeah.
And that suppression leads to other issues.
Yeah.
But the part of yoga or the practice with breathing and certain asanas cleanses your body where you will be able to say, okay, I don't have any salivating towards these things.
Things.
And
Okay.
people had told me this before because I love my food. Like I'm a huge foodie.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude, no way. Like doing yoga
Yeah.
and then how can you give up stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until it happened to me. So I came
Don't
back.
tell me. So now you don't eat non-veg?
So
Or how does it work?
there are times where you're craving a nice kebab or you're
Yeah.
like pandi curry and you're
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I need to eat that. So those moments I give in.
You give in.
But I
Okay.
must say,
I like this.
the next few days you can see the Lataji in the body.
You see how it's affected you,
Yes.
right?
Because
Yeah.
again, it is nutrition that is coming to the body. And like I always say now in this path of doing things and my journey, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. I tell people what you feed your body is what you feed your mind.
Crazy.
And with my experience, when I came back, I really didn't want to. And my dad's like, oh, this is all in your head. This is all nonsense. How can you not? You've always eaten food. You're going to fall down one day. Like, there's no
Oh,
nutrition.
man.
And I'm like, okay.
What did your mom say?
My mom turned vegetarian
What?
after
Okay.
her yogic and her, spiritual path.
Oh, this
and all
is
of that.
nice.
But, I think that is also what I saw. So she would
Okay.
still, there's a particular recipe that we make in Coog,
Okay.
which is like a barbecued.
Okay. So you're a Kurgi by...
I'm half Coorgi, half Malayali.
Okay.
So my
okay.
dad's
Perfect.
Malayali and
Okay.
my mom's Coorg.
Nice.
So she says, if that's made again, I will eat because I will salivate. And she would give in. So sometimes when we make pork at home or we'd go travel, and traveling abroad, there's no vegetarian. So
Yeah, of
anything
course.
has tuna, prawn, all of
She
this.
goes for
so
it.
she would eat and she would say, like, this is life. Like, I'm not going to act like a, touch me not.
Nice.
Or like put myself in a situation where, world is something against me and I'm just
Yeah.
like an alien in this situation.
But is this a advanced definition or has this always been? Is this the definition of yoga, say, from day one?
Yes.
Yeah?
So they say
Okay.
because you need to go through it, right? Like even for example, a lot of people say you can't be with a partner or you need to take
Yeah.
the life of sannyasi
Yeah.
or all of that. Your journey is your journey, and when you reach there, when you're ready to take
Yeah.
the next step, you will know. But
Okay.
before you're there, you can't sit here and I did 1 month of yoga course. And a lot of people, when I came back also, and my friends would be like, oh, so you're not going to have a drink with us. And I'm like, what makes you say
Yeah.
that? Like, and I'm someone who loves to dance, who loves to party. I'm
Yeah.
a people's person. And I'm like, that is union for me.
Yeah.
And I think the yoga tribe is trying to break that.
Lovely.
So what if today I want to have a drink by myself or
Yeah.
with a group? Just because I do yoga, just because I'm trying to be someone to guide you, I think the right and
Nice.
wrong is what stops you. And I keep asking people what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah. I think that line where you said, right, you'll come to a point where you feel that, now you don't need this anymore,
See,
right?
for me, it was like that. With pork, with chicken, mutton, of course, I never liked. But so now I eat egg and I eat seafood because I still crave all of that.
Okay. So tell me if I'm wrong. Is sacrifice a way to go forward?
It depends on the situation and it's very
Okay.
personal.
Okay.
So, for example, sacrifice for me,
Hmm.
tomorrow I have a class to take,
Okay.
and tonight I'm having a good time,
Hmm.
right? So, I will not completely, like put my friends down and say, I have a class tomorrow, so I'm going to be the sannyas.
Hmm.
I'd still probably have one drink and say, you know
Hmm.
what, guys, I will have the one drink with y'all.
Hmm.
But I do need to be responsible because tomorrow I can't go like a zombie
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that person's committed time
Committed time.
and I need to be my 100%, right?
Hmm.
So there are times where I felt guilty. And then
Hmm.
I've sat down and I've asked, put it out, and I feel like anytime you feel lost,
Hmm.
you just need to be mindful again
Hmm.
and think about what is the best that you could do in the situation
Perfect. Perfect.
than listening to the rights and the wrongs and
Rights
all the
and wrong.
stigmas that society.
Go for you.
Yes.
Go for you. So how is this like is there a pre yoga Shruti and a post yoga Shruti, and do you see those changes in your life?
I think from having a lot of friends
Okay.
to keeping my circle very qualitative than
Okay.
quantitative,
Perfect.
that happened when I took this journey because energy plays a huge role. And I'm someone who is a person of vibes. And I realize if you're allowing someone who's a contrast to who you are as a person, it's going to rub off.
Yeah.
So it's a choice you make. You don't have to be rude, but you choose your environment
Yeah.
because that's going to have an effect on you physically, more so mentally and psychologically because the conversations you
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
the memories that you're creating
Yeah.
visually, the memories that you're taking back,
Yeah.
whether, most often you say, oh, it was a bad buzz. It was a bad trip.
Bad trip.
It was a, so these kind of
Yeah.
things, especially in our generation, because we are exposed to so much.
Yeah. There's a lot of noise. Like everywhere there's everything.
When
Yeah.
people ask me, okay, you're so young and like, how do you do this and how do you, like, what do you know? Like, a lot of people ask me, like, at this age, like, what do you know? How are you guiding people? And I can only speak of my experience,
Yeah.
right? Because
That's your source.
that's my
That's
source,
your
and my
source, yeah.
experience is the only truth for me to say, okay, this is what I went through, this is how I overcame it, and therefore I'm showing you the path to,
Yeah.
telling you if at all you falter, I'm here,
Hmm.
and we can deal with this together. And coming back to that's why it's the yoga tribe where everybody, all of us are connected, and you'll see, when you meet a certain type of person, you'll hit it off
Yeah.
at an instance.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like a bit like,
It's
okay,
not that-
not my type.
yeah.
Right, so that is where the pre-Shruti and the post-Shruti happen.
And you're seeing that difference clearly. Like you feel like
Absolutely. Like otherwise, when I was, as being the people's person, I would always say, no, let me be the nice one. But at the cost of what?
at the cost of what?
Right? So you need to be selfish to be selfless.
You need
Unless
to be
you
selfish
are
to be
so
self-
sorted with
Yeah.
yourself,
You can't.
you can't
Yeah.
be there for anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's from time to time. As much as I do this, I'm not saying I'm perfect. There are days
Yeah.
where I'm extremely vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
And there are things you're screwing up too, maybe. Like you never know yet.
yeah, and I
And-
think
yeah.
it's very important to be honest about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what gives you the power.
Because I feel like a lot of our social media, some of the celebrities, they are speaking of this empowerment and how mental health is so important. But I've had few people where I'm looking at their true story and I'm looking at them saying things on social media and I'm like, where's the connection?
Where's
I
the
mean, who
connection?
are you trying to cheat? Right? So I feel like, we all are imperfect. And I don't know
Imperfect, yeah.
why society keeps telling us you need to be this person, you need to be a certain
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. That there's literally where's it heading? What are you trying to achieve with that anyway, right? So in fact, that's taking you away from the whole point of being yourself. Okay. Slightly deeper question, but I have a feeling that you're equipped to answer. So I'm going to go for it. Usually I keep these questions to myself, but I feel like, I can ask you. I feel if a person is highly aware of themselves, right? Now, I said yoga is also a tool. I've always seen religion as a tool. I've always seen scriptures as a tool as well to become more aware in a way. So how do you see religion and how do you see spirituality, right? So are all these tools, or what's your take on this?
Okay, so religion, I think.
Keeping yoga in mind.
Yes.
And is yoga a religious thing? That's also something I wanted to ask you.
I will
Yeah.
definitely answer
Yeah, yeah.
that because when I had clients who were from different backgrounds in terms of Hindus, I mean, I had some Hindus who did not want to chant.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I was intrigued by that because it's most often, Christians
Yeah.
or Muslims, and, I don't want to say Om or,
Yeah.
it's against my religion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they were getting benefit from it.
Okay.
Right? I will explain why. And I was like, if you are benefiting, right, it's just a shallow thinking. Then my religion said this and that. And it is not religion because if you look at the Om sound, it's divided into three syllables, which is A, U, and Ma.
Okay.
And if you look at Christians, we say Amen, which is again A, Ma, and Na. And in Muslims, we say Ameen. So it's the same syllables, which again bogs down to the vibration or the frequency at which the universe functions.
Okay.
So your silly mind or the shallowness is that Om is Hindu, therefore I will not chant it.
That's
Right?
crazy. That's
so
crazy.
I would always
So yoga is not religious.
it isn't. It's a way of life.
Nice.
And if you look at all our religious barriers also, it's like saying you are Christian, I am Hindu, and you're differentiating. But you say God is one.
Yeah.
So if I'm Hindu and you're Christian, are you saying that I'm not created from the same God?
Yeah, that's almost
or
crazy.
the same
yeah.
source? I think today we use a lot of universe, which is a Western adoption because it's easier.
It's easier.
In India, we always said God. But
God.
now God is which God?
Yeah.
And in Hindus, we have, like, Ganesha is the one who takes away obstacles. Lakshmi is the one who gives, all your basic of foundation, all of that. So it's just of knowledge, understanding, and the right information to keep you grounded so that your mind is open.
Yeah.
And not stuck in a matchbox where you're allowed to light the matches, but you don't want to say, this is my matchbox.
Oh, this is nice.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So I had Christian people, like, since I'm also half Christian, like, my aunt and uncle would be like, oh, now she's doing yoga, I think she's going to be converted, like, she's going to go on, like, the... Only because
There's the lack of knowledge.
Yes, and it's fear-driven.
Yeah, it's
right?
fear-driven.
It's always
due to a lot of things.
Due to a lot of
external
things.
factors.
So that's why most often now you will see people saying, I am spiritual and not religious.
Yeah, because that's a better way of existing.
It is in its existence because it is keeping your spirit alive. It's keeping your spirit grounded, right? With the principles of way of life where you don't harm anybody, you don't intend badly for someone, you're caring, you're loving, you're kind, right? Which is our true nature.
Yeah.
We've gone far away from it, that we need these tools to get back to who we are.
Yeah. So when you say who we are you a person who believes that a human being is here for a purpose, or are you here to experience?
I think
if you had to choose between the two,
I don't think you can
think about it.
Divide it, maybe, because unless you experience, you don't find purpose.
Okay. No, because there's a line there, right? So if you're saying everyone's here for a purpose, that means your destination is decided. If you're saying you're open to experience, that means you get to decide your destination.
Of course.
So you tell me what you feel.
So I feel
is your destination decided or not?
Not. I think so I've been a believer that you can achieve what you want.
Okay.
So then you write your destiny. Right? You are choosing every part. It's like an action and consequence. You have two roads.
Yeah.
The road that says right is probably the right one.
Yeah.
But if at that moment you say, no, I'll just take the left road. Right? So you are taking that action by choice. And I feel like that's where you'll experience what you need to experience. And then you can decide that, okay, this is how I want my journey to be.
Nice.
And that is something
that is a strong opinion, though, by the way. There's a large group who believes the other.
Which is again a choice.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I think it's good to have open-mindedness. And I wouldn't be able to say because I think this way, this is the end all. Right? Which most often I feel when people their experience is so strong,
Yeah.
they vouch that no, this is
This
it.
is, yeah, and so be it. And so
Right?
be
So
it.
that's why I feel like all of us have our say, and it should be that way.
Hmm.
Right? It should
Hmm.
be where I can have my opinion, but I don't have to say by my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't need to agree. You don't need to agree.
I can agree to disagree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, that was one of our topics, I think, on our second episode. Anyway, another thing I want to know from you, right? So, where, how does Shruti look at her usual days? And when you go into saying taking a session for Yoga Tribe, are you going in for the experience, or is there also a materialistic dream towards the Yoga Tribe where it becomes a huge movement where it pays you well as well, or are you not a person who's thinking about money?
So it's a good question that you
Hmm.
asked, because for me it was never the money,
Okay,
the fulfillment and the
but does it pay well, you think?
I set my standards.
Okay,
So I
okay.
mean, you can't do everything for free.
Free, yeah.
And most often as a personalized trainer, people, known people specifically, oh my God, you're so expensive. I can't afford you. But I respect that, because I believe that when you're really prioritizing yourself and well-being, you are investing in that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like a gym subscription,
Yeah.
right? It's a lifelong investment,
Investment.
where if you're investing 3 months or 6 months, it's going to pay off for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So this is similar.
Yes. So when I started off, because I said if I can be the light for someone in the dark, because in my journey, I'm grateful that I was the only one. Like my parents had said, we are here to support you, etc. But I had to fight it out. And a lot of times, being from a design background, people are like, but you did design studies, and what about that? And this yoga, does it really pay you? And I'm like, I'm not doing this for the money.
Okay.
But eventually, that's where when you follow your passion and you follow why.
It takes care of you.
Yes.
That's
There
what you
is a
believe in.
lot of letting go and surrender, because
Yeah.
materialistic things are very important, because you need to have your basics,
Yeah.
right? But that takes care of itself.
You don't compare yourself to your friends. Do you feel bad when a close friend is earning more than you?
I think I'm very different that way, because
Okay.
I'm grateful that that was never a part that was a lack. Right?
Okay.
We were blessed to have our
Okay.
basic comforts, I would say even luxuries.
Okay.
So I think that was not the goal.
Okay. Perfect.
You see, when that is your basic, you're always striving for that, because
Yeah.
you need that to be satiated first.
Right.
And
right.
I feel extremely blessed, because if that wasn't taken care of, maybe I wouldn't have the openness and the passion to be driven
yeah.
to do this.
So that's a blessing that you acknowledge.
Yes. And at the same time, I'm very particular about my finance and all of that.
Okay.
Being
so
a
you're
planner.
pretty strict, you're saying,
Yes.
on your finances. You
Yes.
don't go and splurge.
I don't. I keep
Okay.
I think the splurging is more for the travel bit, because
Okay.
I love to be on the go. And I think the only place where I feel like I have a travel plan and then I'm like, okay, the funds are a bit of a pinch right now,
Okay.
then I work a little harder. And
make it
I
happen for
look
yourself.
out for a lot more people. But otherwise, I feel I make the choice of being content and grateful, because when you are happy with what you have, you also make way for what is meant to come to you.
Lovely. Lovely. Yeah. Where do you see Yoga Tribe going forward? Like, if there's one thing that isn't a part of Yoga Tribe yet, but you wish it is, what's that?
I think people really being themselves,
Okay.
because I think that's what yoga may be one of the tools that I share. But end of the day, it's about making all of us believe that we are unique, we are special, and we don't need to be a replica, but just be an original.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I think, Shruti, to honestly tell you, every time I sit here, I know for a fact time goes by without me realizing it. But yes, it's been 45 minutes, right? So, there's so much I feel that has to be still spoken about yoga in our communities. there's so much about awareness that has to be spoken, and it's usually that people think it's too fancy. People think it's too fancy. They say, I got bills to pay. But the more aware you become, chances are you'll actually figure out ways to pay your bills. Right? So I hope that's the message that goes out to people, right? So Shruti, any closing messages from you, like one thing to whoever's listening?
I think yoga is for everyone, and most often people take up yoga because they feel they're extremely stiff, and flexibility is what the goal is. And I'd like to say, be flexible here, and you will see flexibility in your body. So find union with yourself at wherever you are in your journey, and believe that the path of learning is eternal. So as long as you're open to learning, there will be growth, there will be progress, and you just have to believe that you can, and you really can.
Perfect. Thank you, Shruti. Go check her Instagram out. I've had a wonderful time listening to her. I'm sure you did too. Recommend her profile to people. Let her go and find out. Shruti, this was absolutely amazing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Adarsh. It was fun. It was lovely to answer. The questions that came about were so bang on.
Perfect.
To speak about my story and my journey. So it was a pleasure this evening with you, and I'd love to speak about a lot more and bring
Yes.
about that awareness, so that
Yep.
the yoga tribe grows and everybody is a better version on a daily basis.
Let's do like an Instagram live session, maybe, once if
Perfect.
people want to do it, let's, make that happen, right?
Sounds good.
Awesome, yeah. Thank you for being here. This was episode 12. I hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next one. Thank you.